Hi, I'm Mike Brewer, pastor of the Blue Ash Presbyterian Church, and you have tuned in or stumbled upon Mike's midweek message. 4 or 5 minutes of encouragement or humor or maybe occasionally provocation. Glad that you are here today. Maybe you came across the same news story that I recently came across about a group of Israeli young people who were on an archaeological dig in Israel. Sort of public service prior to going into military service. But in the process of digging around, these kids found a buried treasure cache. They turned up an urn containing hundreds of gold coins. Gold coins well preserved and in perfect condition. According to the archaeologists, that hoard was over 1,000 years old, hidden away all that time. I can't imagine what a thrill it was to push a shovel or a spade into the ground and hear that clink and discover those gold coins waiting to see the light for the first time in centuries. I am a sucker for buried treasure stories, whether it's an archaeological hoard or a sunken treasure ship or pirate treasure tucked away on some desert island, or the person who goes poking around in their attic and discovers a Picasso they didn't know was up there. I love that stuff. Every time I plant a tree in my yard or dig a hole for a bush, I think maybe this is the time. Maybe I'll find something amazing here. So far, I found nothing but dirt and worms, but you never know. But it's left me wondering, not only are there other treasures out there waiting to be found, but there are treasures in you and me that are probably waiting to be found as well. You see, despite all the crazy stuff that we hear about people doing, and the stupid stuff we hear about people doing, and sometimes the downright cruel and hurtful stuff that we hear about, I remain convinced that despite all that, human beings are amazing. We are amazing because that's the way God made us. Let me share a few verses with you from Psalm 139. If you're not familiar with this psalm, I commend it to you. It's one of the great prayer classics in the Bible. But the psalmist is celebrating the fact that he or she was created by God. For it was you, O Lord, who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Isn't that a wonderful image? God knitting you together, nerve by nerve and sinew by sinew in your mother's belly. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah, because God doesn't make junk, right? God's standards are high as a maker, as a craftsperson. And then, just to underline the whole thing, the psalmist says, wonderful are your works, that I know very well. Yeah, God's works are wonderful, and we are among God's works. That gets me thinking, what treasures might be hidden in you and me that have yet to see the light of day? What possibilities has God knitted into you and me? What talents has God woven into our spirits and our muscles that we have never put to use? I'll bet there are a lot of them. Either because we've been afraid to trot them out, or we're not very self-aware, or we just settle into the daily grind without much self-reflection. The great jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that too many people die with their music still in them. I think he's talking about buried treasures that never somehow get turned up in our lives, never get revealed to the world. Back to those gold coins. They'd been wrapped up and resting in that urn and buried in the soil for 1,100 years. What if nobody had ever found them? What if nobody had ever pulled them out of the soil? What if they just stayed there forever? What a waste. What a loss. Well, the same goes for you and me. So what I'm thinking is, if you have some passion that you've always stifled, if you have some gift you've really never honed and developed, if you have something you've always wanted to do but you've been too busy or too scared, why not now? Why not now? Oliver Wendell Holmes went on to say that so many people spend their lives getting ready to live, and then one day their time runs out. So, why not now? To mine those gifts, to unbury those treasures, to let the world see what God has planted in you. Now, one other thought. This also leaves me wondering about the people I meet every day. Because if I am filled with buried treasures, thanks to God's goodness and creativity, then the people around me must be filled with treasures too. Maybe treasures that are just waiting for someone to recognize them, or to coax them out, or to welcome them into the world. Yeah, maybe as we interact with the people around us, we ought to do more prospecting. Rather than judging people by first impressions and by outward looks, maybe we ought to try to look deeper and wonder what God has planted there to enrich the world and to enrich us and to make life better if it could just be brought out into the open. Well, that's it. If this inspires you to try something, good. If this encourages you to look with more reverence upon somebody else in your life, that's good too. I think you are amazing people, and I'm glad you stopped in today. I look forward to getting together with you again soon. In the meanwhile, I pray that God will keep you strong and safe and faithful. Bye. We'll get together again soon.